Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on ESPN 790 AM. Brought to you proudly by Sportsman's Warehouse and the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency.
Hey, good Saturday morning, and welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray. And, hey, for those of you that are in Brownsville or Jackson, tune in on with us. And, hey, we got the fastest 90 minutes of Outdoors here out of the ESPN 92.9 or FM 790 studios. Hey, Larry Ray, we've got
You got a winner coming up next, right?
A real winner.
A real winner.
Absolutely.
A friend of this show for many years.
He's been on.
We're not going to tell it
quite a few times,
yeah,
yes.
Yep.
And he's from
Where?
North Carolina.
Yep. Yep.
He is now with Pier Fishing.
Yes.
He has won Bassmaster Classics.
Yes, he has.
He is, in my opinion, Mr. Crankbait.
He is Mr. Crankbait. Yeah,
I mean,
he is. Yeah,
he put crankbaits as the number one fishing lure at one time, and he's still the biggest innovator of crankbaits today, and he does that with Berkeley.
That's enough. That's enough introduction for him. Let's get him
But
over
he's
there.
one heck of a fisherman.
I can hear him snoring in the background.
The Team Lose pro, David Fritts. Good morning, David.
Ron, you're hard to handle, buddy.
Oh, that's what we wanted on there. That's exactly what we wanted on there. But, hey, David, congratulations, as we set off the air. And Ron had the privilege of being up there in Springfield and seeing this all occur, and to go in with some of your friends and Davey and Mark and talk about because I've heard you got kind of in shock a little bit, but talk about when you found out about this. Give us what was going through David Fritz's mind.
Well, I'm very seldom in fishing now. I'm very seldom to be lost for words, but I was up on stage there at Lake Lanier, and Rick Clunn was ahead of me, and Dave Preck was up there, and I didn't know what in the world. I didn't even think nothing, and they told me they was doing something for Rick. But anyway, they told me that I was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I was just totally shocked. I think my words were, "I'm glad I'm getting in there before I die."
That's exactly. That's what he said. This is what you said. I'm floored. That's probably the biggest thing in my life. We're all obviously getting older, and I'm thinking, boy, I sure would like to get in there before I died. I'm shocked. I don't believe it. So
it's very, very well deserved, though, David.
Way well deserved for you, David, because I know you. I've been at this thing a long time, and I know that your name was always in there. You've been a great representative of the sport. So, talk about how you feel about this and your walk to where you got to be. I mean, buddy, because you hung in there. You've done so many great things. Talk about what fishing's meant to David Fritts.
Well, fishing is just my life, like a lot of other people, and I was real fortunate to have a family that worked hard and were down to earth, good people.
Yes.
Didn't say bad words, didn't tell lies, didn't do this, and worked from daylight to dark. So I really had I had a really super good genes in me, I guess, for working night and day, and time on the water. There's no replacement for that, and to be up there. When I got up on stage at the other night, it was a lot different because I'm used to talking to a bunch of fishermen. Even though I was talking to fishermen, it was just different.
It was.
It was just different being up there with all your peers and a lot of the people that helped you get there, and. I can't be more honored. I tell you, I've been very fortunate in my life to be able to work hard and to catch fish, and when the crankbait deal come around, it was one of them deals where everybody said, "Well, you can't fish and be successful fishing a crankbait." I never will forget that, and a lot of people told me that, and I was just at the right place at the right time.
Well,
David,
let me say that on that, because David, because one of our good friends is Davey Hite, and he said, quote, he educated the world about cranking. So just to be in the Hall of Fame is great, but to think that you put something on the map that you're known by, I can't think of anything I'm known by other than I can talk, so that Ron, you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely. And, David, tell our listeners, first of all, being in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, you didn't start out bass fishing. In fact, your parents weren't the ones that introduced you to fishing.
Really? All
right. You were at one time, you learned how to fish for carp. Well, tell that little story about how.
Yeah, we got to hear
what happened.
David, Fritts, and
from
carp.
there to what happened on your first rod and reel, and somebody gave you this thing that you called a crankbait, and how this all evolved.
All right, that's wrong. Now, we want to hear this now. Everybody, listen up. Listen up now.
Yeah. This is it's not a story, but a lot of people don't know this, how I really got started bass fishing. When I was a real young man, 10, 12 years old, actually 6 or 7 years old, that's all I studied was going fishing. It didn't matter. I just wanted to have my cork in the water, and there was nothing like seeing that cork go under the water.
Amen.
And I sort of got, I sort of got into carp fishing, and man, them carp pulled good. And it was so much fun.
Come on.
And,
yeah.
It was just a blast, and I don't know, it must have been around 1969, could have been 1970, but we had a church outing down at High Rock Lake, and our Sunday school teacher invited all of us kids, and so we go down there, and as usual, I'm out there on the pier fishing. Everybody else is swimming. I'm fishing. Just because I love it so much. My aunt is probably the biggest role in my fishing. She's the one that always took me fishing. Really? My mom took me to my aunts, but my aunt always took me fishing.
Wow.
But, my mother's sister. So anyway, she come down there, and she had this I don't know, this lure or whatever it was, and handed it to me, and I said, "What is this?" She says, "I think you catch bass with it." I said, "Well, what do you do with it?" She said, "I don't know. I guess it's tied on. Throw it out there and wind it back in." So I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll try that." And so I tied this thing on, and at that time I had probably zip code 33.
Oh, yeah.
Just something. 12 years old.
Yeah.
I ain't as smart as these young kids today. He's got bait casters, 12 years old, throwing a bait caster. But anyway, I threw it around a little bit, and I walked back up on the pier, and everybody done got out from swimming. So there was a pole between our dock and the next dock, and I threw it out by that pole, and I wound that thing in. And when I hit that pole, my rod sort of doubled up, and I said, "Lord, I done hung this thing up. I'm going to lose it." Well, about that time, this mouth comes out of the water that I thought you could stick a 5-gallon bucket in, but that's a little exaggerated.
Oh, man.
But I knew when that happened, I liked that. I mean, that just that was the start of my bass fishing. When that big fish come up and shook his head, I said, "Man, carp don't do that."
Hey,
I like this, and that's how I got started. After that, that's the only thing I fished for. After that fish right there, after that one fish, and he was a 5-pounder.
Wow!
But I never had anything to pull and to act like that. So,
well, it's quite a story, and we're talking to David Fritts. Newly inducted into the National Bass Fishing Hall of Fame here recently up in Springfield, Missouri. Long way from Lexington, North Carolina, and through this. And I tell you what, David, those are the kind of stories that stick around, buddy. And no telling what was ahead when you were back then. I don't know. What did you want to? Did that start off saying I'm going to be a fisherman? But you had a real life first, right?
Oh yeah, I did. You know, I was helping my dad some on the farm, and
yeah.
My dad was a really hard worker. He dug graves for a living to make $5 for digging a grave. That's by hand with a pick and shovel. So,
wow.
And then he was in the tire business, and I started helping him do that a little bit, and then this fishing, it just kept getting like more addicting. I was already tremendously addicted.
You were addicted.
It really got addicted.
And here's a little tidbit for all of our listeners. They probably don't know about David Fritts, but he can grow some great watermelons and pumpkins every year.
You're really getting me going now. I mean, I've gone from...
Yeah, he does that today.
He does?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Don't you, David?
I do. We slacked up. I'm slacking up a little bit, but we used to raise about 120 acres of watermelons and gourds.
Oh my gosh!
And that's a lot of work. It's just hard. You know, it's really hard to get people that want to work. And I finally figured out. Everybody said, "Well, you need to go hire some Mexicans. They know how to work hard." Well, I thought, I'm going to go up to the school where I was in the FFA and ask the teacher up there, and he put a little note up, and I got me some FFA boys. And
there you go.
That's a smart thing.
There was a few of them that wasn't real good workers, but there was a lot of them that was dang good workers. And then my son helped me some here lately, and my son he works about as hard as I do. So
well, I know he's learned it from you, buddy. I wish we had more time, but. One of our favorite people, David Fritts, thanks for taking time from your busy schedule. Again, congratulations, well-deserved. You got a lot of fans in Memphis here. I know that in this area from your long service as an ambassador. And you've been one of those guys. I think you're happy to share the stage with Davey and Mark. You guys are part of the good guys, and the guys that the young guys can look up to. So thanks to Ron for setting up the interview, and thanks to you, David. And we will definitely stay in touch, buddy. And
we'll see you down the road, my friend. Yeah,
and bring a watermelon with Ron, and he can bring the watermelon back to me. Okay. All right, man.
I know one thing. Just don't give Ron a rod and reel. I swear.
Oh no.
I told you this to start the show. It's like. Man, when we go fish that ICAST Cup, Ron is going to catch the biggest fish, so you might as well not even plan on that.
Well, he's planning to go carp fishing when we leave here this morning. So
that's right.
All right, David. Thank you, buddy. Have a great day. Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Let's take a break. Hard to top that one. We'll come right back. We'll talk big bass on the Arkansas River on Outdoors with Larry Ray.